Welcome to Dairy Delivery by the Dairy Star. On today's episode, we have a variety of stories from around our Midwestern leadership area. We start in Lemiro, Wisconsin, as the Elsinger family turned tragedy into something new. Our next story, we hear about a rarity in the dairy world, triplets, that have been some of the most consistent contributors in the barn at Clasemann Dairy Farm in Long Prairie, Minnesota. Next, we head just across the river to visit with Scott Knoll in Alma, Wisconsin. Five Star Dairy Farm LLC earned this year's Farm Award for Environmental Stewardship. We wrap up today's episode with a conversation with Adam Johnson. During the winter months after chores, Johnson and his kids spend time at the ice rink working on their curling skills just in time for the Winter Olympics. You are listening to Dairy Delivery, all dairy, all the time. We'd like to thank today's sponsor, DRMS.
This episode is brought to you by DRMS. DRMS is excited to launch the Fresh Cow Index, a new metric within the Herd HQ platform. FCI is featured in the Fresh Focus Transition Cow reports inside Dairy Depot and will be available in DART in the future. FCI combines 25 individual cow variables from DHI test day data and CDCB genetic evaluations into a single, easy-to-understand score for evaluating transition cow performance. A score of 100 indicates expected performance. Cows above 100 are outperforming predictions, while those below 100 are more likely to underperform and face early culling risk. Producers and consultants can use FCI to evaluate month-over-month changes in feeding and management, understand herd-level transition success, and drill down into Cow Compass for detailed cow-level insights. Herd HQ. See what's happening in your herd. Learn more at drms.org/herdhq/what-is-herdhq.
I'm Michelle Stangler.
And I'm Dan Walker, and we're your reporters with the Dairy Star, bringing you the latest in the dairy industry, including hearing from farmers from across the Midwest and beyond. Well, Michelle, we're in the kind of middle of winter right now, and I think both of us have kind of been hit with a little bit of a typical winter sickness we get up here in the Midwest, huh?
Yeah, I got cold, and that's where I got a little sick. I don't know how many times I've lost my voice, maybe once or twice in my life. And this sickness, I lost my voice. And so it's hard to speak for a few days. I had a friend mention to me that it was kind of weird for me to not talk as much. Like I was silent in the vehicle. So it was kind of weird, but I'm glad I'm healthy again. Though. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I think about once every 6 months for whatever reason I get this one cold that always comes where I lose my voice for about 2-3 days. I don't know why it is, but it's pretty consistent. Right now I got a daughter in daycare and she just came down with a little flu bug last night. So I think it was December. The kids came home. One of them had a cough, and I immediately went out and got emergency. And I've been drinking emergency every day since that cough for the last 3 months, whatever it is now. So just trying to stay ahead of it as best we can. That's for sure. So
It makes me grateful that it seems like right now we're probably getting a fall spring. It's been so warm out. It's been sunny. All the good things. I love the summer like weather. And so I hope really this is not a fall spring.
exactly, yeah, and I love that you're calling it summer like weathers. We're gonna get a high of 50 or had a high of 50, and that we're calling that summer, which is pretty typical for us and around this time of year. But it definitely feels a whole lot different when you think about it. What 3 weeks ago it was -20, so it's a 70-degree difference in 3 weeks time. So it's feeling good. It's looking good. We're obviously hitting that typical 40 degrees, windows down, and getting have a little fun. Remember what nice weather's like outside.
Yeah, and then you know how Mother Nature is in the Midwest. It likes to fool you. And whether you believe the groundhog or not, I just really hope we don't get really cold again in these next few weeks and we have spring.
For sure. And so fun fact, I actually looked some stuff up on Groundhog's Day. So it came from German settlers who settled in Pennsylvania, obviously. Do you know what kind of animal the Germans used originally when they had their own Groundhog's Day in Germany?
No, no idea.
It was a badger. And when they couldn't find a badger, they used a bear, which I don't know how they observed the bear come out of its den from hibernation. That seems kind of dangerous, but still, probably didn't have a viewing area of that one.
Yeah, it makes me think of sports are wrapping up. The Wisconsin Badgers, if you're a men's basketball fan, some recent upsets. So we're almost into March Madness. The big game of football just happened. So yeah, just a lot of things happening this time of the year. But certainly a lot of stories reporting in the Dairy
Oh,
Stars.
you forgot the best part of it, the summertime and sports coming in. Pitchers and catchers reported last week.
Oh
We got
gosh.
baseball coming up here soon too, Michelle.
Yeah, there's a lot of happening on the sports front. That is more your wheelhouse. I like to watch here and there, but there is just a lot of stories happening in the dairy end of things. A lot of trade shows wrapping up before spring planting in the upcoming few months. So let's get into today's episode.
Our first story today turns tragedy into opportunity. On May 15th, 2025, 15 tornadoes hit throughout the state of Wisconsin, wiping out the barn at Elsinger Farms. One of our Wisconsin reporters, Stacy Smart, talked with Brenda Elsinger about how her family used this chance to rebuild their barn, putting more of a focus on cow comfort.
Brenda, what does it feel like to walk out of the house each morning now and see a new barn standing and all the cows back home again in that barn?
The feeling is like no other feeling that I have had. May 14th, everything on the dairy was humming along. We were very happy with the way our dairy was working and the way the cows were producing and the way they were working for us. And on May 15th, our world was tipped upside down. We had a lot of decisions to make by the seat of our pants. We had a lot of employees looking at us going, what are the next steps? And so there was a lot of things that needed to be gone through and figured out.
Can you talk about the timeline and the speed at which this barn was built? Because it was put up pretty quick, right?
Yes, it was. The night of the tornado, there was already stuff being cleaned up. The next day, dumpsters were brought in with the help of many, many generous people. The building got cleaned up pretty quick. Our shop crew was out there consistently cleaning up to get ready for the barn build. The first barn was actually finished on September 14th, and that was 4 months after the tornado is when the first group of cows were moved in from the west end, and the first group was brought home. And the second barn was put up and finished by November 18th with the final group of cows coming home.
Okay. And that was the east end that was finished second? Or
The east end was finished first, the west end was finished second.
Got it. Okay. And what were some of the improvements that were made to this barn versus, what you had in the old barn?
The biggest improvement that we did was to have the drover lanes put in on the south side. That helped tremendously with cow flow, getting cows back to the pens, getting them out of the pens at a really nice rate. It's helping us with laying down time, eating, drinking. That was our biggest improvement. The outside stalls of the pens have a little bit wider stall, and then we concreted underneath them, hoping that we will save on sand. The sprinkler system is a new system. We're hoping it's going to have better coverage of the cows. And then we also added the freedom stalls, which we already had started before the tornado. We were replacing as the metal stalls or the loops were getting bad on us. So we were very happy with them, and that's why we did the whole barn.
Okay. And those are the flex stalls, right? That kind of have like some give to them.
Yes. It makes gives the cows more room, more comfort, and it just makes, if there's a bigger cow, they can utilize that stall a little bit better than if it's hoarding concrete.
Sure. Yeah. And how are the cows adapting to their new facilities, would you say?
We feel that they are adapting very well. Before we had the tornado come through, we had a 57,000 somatic cell count. The highest somatic cell count we had after the tornado was 138,000 because we were extremely overcrowded and the summer heat. And February so far, we're back at 77,000. The goal for the year is 70,000, but we're hoping that we can maybe drop that a little bit.
That's great. So it sounds like the cows are doing well. And now next in the rebuilding phase is the milking parlor. And I was just wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about your plans for that part of the project.
Yes, so we are going to open up the return lanes, make them wider, just to get the cows out of the milking parlor quicker, make it more efficient. We're going to be opening up from the parlor to the return lanes and possibly adding on some special need pens onto the side of the holding area, or if a cow has sore foot or needs to be closer to the parlor. We have 2 of them right now that we do utilize, but we're going to add a few more on.
So in the aftermath of the tornado, your community really rallied around your family to help you not only the night of, but they stuck with you for weeks and months that followed, correct?
Absolutely. We could not have asked for a better community and beyond. The farming community really did shine that night and beyond. We don't know what we would have done if we didn't have the manpower that we had. And me, I do the cooking Monday through Friday for the shop crew. So the people bringing food for us to warm up, or even food that was frozen that we could just pop into the oven if we needed it, was a huge help. Nobody had any idea how much that helped me.
Oh, I bet. Just not having to worry about the cooking and the food, and you could just concentrate on all the other work that had to be done. That's a really nice gesture. So overall, it sounds like a bad experience ultimately turned into a good experience. Would you say that's true?
Yes, 110%. As a family, we were already checking into how we could get our cattle through the parlor and back to the pens more efficient. We had an older facility that we were talking about having some updates to, and the night of the tornado, when that came through, the decision was made for us, and we couldn't have been happier with the way things turned out. I guess the one good experience that I would like to talk about again is the community and beyond. We could not have done what we did that night and the days following without all the people stepping up to help us. The night of the tornado, people showing up, taking our cattle, a young man standing in front of us, telling us, "I can help you place the cattle." The cattle went to amazing farms that we worked with for months until they got home, and they came home in pristine shape because of the way they were taken care of. The one thing we learned from this whole experience is there are still a lot of good people in the world, and we will never forget that.
This episode is brought to you by DRMS. DRMS is excited to launch the Fresh Cow Index, or FCI, a new metric within the Herd HQ platform. Featured in Fresh Focus reports inside Dairy Depot, FCI combines 25 cow-level variables from DHI test day data and CDCB genetic evaluations into one score to evaluate transition cow performance. A score of 100 means cows performed as expected, while lower scores can signal added risk early in lactation. Herd HQ. See what's happening in your herd. Learn more at drms.org/herd-HQ/what-is-herd-HQ.
Read about the Elsingers' newly constructed barn under the headline Turning Catastrophe into Opportunity on dairystar.com. Our next story today has us seeing triple. A set of triplets were born in April of 2020 at Clasemann Dairy Farm in Long Prairie, Minnesota. Since then, the triplets have been major players in the herd of 250 cows. Dan spoke with the herdsman Jill Mitchell about how these 3 have been consistent contributors to the herd since the day they were born.
We had a set of triplets born on 4/24 of 2020. They were completely unexpected triplets. They just did DHI milk testing for pregnancy testing at that point in time. They were actually hauling manure out of the pit in the spring, and they noticed a calf born, and then there was another calf, then there was another calf, and she was the only cow that had calved. So they're triplets.
That's awesome. I'm sure there was some fun scavenger hunt almost to trying to figure out if there was another cow that had calved, or if you guys had to figure out if it was triplets or what was going on there then.
Yeah, for sure.
And Jill, who is the sire of the triplets?
The sire of the triplets is Foxhole from Select Factors.
What lactation are these cows in, and what has their milk production been like?
So we got two of the triplets that are currently in their third lactation. Both of them will be drying off within the next 14 days or so. Those two, actually all three of the triplets are averaging 35,000 pounds of lactation right now. And one of the triplets just actually freshened in with her fourth lactation on the 13th of January, and she's already averaging about 150 pounds a day.
That's awesome. It's like to go from having triplets, having them produce like how they are, that's got to be fantastic.
Correct. It's the comment made, when we did the actual interview for the paper was, look at the milk production we're getting out of one single calving. Even if it's 30,000, that's still 90,000 pounds a year out of one calving.
Yeah, that's great. That's a highly efficient calving you had there then, I would say.
Correct. And each one of the triplets that have respectively had at least one twin birth. We actually have one of the triplets that's currently due with a potential set of triplets. The vet did potentially see a third slip in there when she was doing herd health on her. We do ultrasound now, so we do know if there's twins or more coming.
God, you got a little bit better idea. Well, hopefully if you do get triplets,
Correct.
I mean, to be able to, catch lightning in a bottle twice to have that kind of efficiency out of another one would be pretty fantastic.
That would be fantastic, yeah. They each have two daughters that are live. Each one of the twins does have two live daughters out there. There's two of them milking in the herd already. So of the six, there's two milking, and they're both doing fantastic for those daughters of the triplets.
That's awesome. Good to have those kind of genetics continue to, have it be a part of your herd and continue to deliver for you guys. So
Correct.
What kind of personalities do the triplets have?
Two of them are very friendly, more like you can scratch them, pet them, and they're fine with it. But there's one of them that's very much to herself and very standoffish. She doesn't exactly care to be touched.
Okay. So the same exact personalities as some people, I would assume that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just cows and people are so similar when it comes to person. Ooh, I'll be your friend, and the next one is don't touch me.
And it all depends on that kind of day, I'm sure, sometimes too. So.
Correct.
How much excitement and anticipation do these three bring to your dairy?
Well, obviously a lot if I'm talking to you right now. I got really lucky that I came down to the barn to check an issue that night, and I've gotten a picture of the three of them together. That's the one that'll be in the paper. And that's when I decided to make the TikTok about them, since they were all standing together. And everybody knows who the triplets are on the farm. When we do walkthroughs, if there's potential people who want to do Gia robots, if we do a walkthrough, we make sure we point out the triplets because they are obviously pretty special.
Definitely, for sure. And then, let's say when I went through and kind of read some things up on you in the article, you're the fifth generation on this farm, right?
Yes, Mark is fifth generation on the farm currently.
Okay, what's it mean to you to continue on his family's dairy farm? And from what it sounds like, you got a couple kids who are interested in farming as well?
Yeah, Mark has a 14-year-old son, and I have a 9-year-old boy. We have a mixed family, and they're both interested in it. There's no pressure. We're not pushing them to say, yes, you have to dairy farm, you have to dairy farm, you have to dairy farm. But obviously, it'd be pretty awesome if we could extend it into a sixth generation on the farm for dairy farming. It's a lot of pressure to take over, since Tony's the one who did all the genetics up until I took over about a year ago, and they are completely an AI-built herd. They're completely closed since 1988. Wow. They went from a 50-60 cow herd in the tie stall barn to 255, 260 cows milking right now, all by AI, nothing bought. So it's a huge undertaking, and there's a lot of pride that I feel with this herd currently.
That's awesome. I'm going to say, to know that was built internally and know that you're continuing on what they've built up on their own has got to feel pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome to keep on looking at ways to better the genetics of the cattle. What can we do for changing this, feed? What can we do to change the genetics? What can we do to change anything? And the biggest noticeable difference that we've had is going with the robotics is you get a lot better udder structure for longevity on any cow out there in the herd.
This episode is brought to you by DRMS. DRMS is excited to launch the Fresh Cow Index, a new metric within the Herd HQ platform. FCI is featured in the Fresh Focus Transition Cow reports inside Dairy Depot and will be available in DART in the future. FCI combines 25 individual cow variables from DHI test day data and CDCB genetic evaluations into a single, easy-to-understand score for evaluating transition cow performance. A score of 100 indicates expected performance. Cows above 100 are outperforming predictions, while those below 100 are more likely to underperform and face early culling risk. Producers and consultants can use FCI to evaluate month-over-month changes in feeding and management, understand herd-level transition success, and drill down into Cow Compass for detailed cow-level insights. Herd HQ. See what's happening in your herd. Learn more at drms.org/herdhq/what-is-herdhq. Read all about the triplets at Clasemann Dairy Farm under the headline 3 Times the Charm on dairystar.com. Next, we head to Alma, Wisconsin. I had the chance to speak with the 2025 Farm Award winner for environmental stewardship, Scott Knoll. Stewardship has been a tradition at Knoll's 5-star dairy farm, but it's been refocused after Scott's diagnosis with pancreatic cancer. Scott, can you tell me a little bit about your farm?
Yeah, I'm a third-generation dairy and crop farmer. We milk about 100 cows, probably have about 600 acres of land with what we rent and what we own. I have 5 children that help me out quite a bit. Initially, I started farming with my grandpa and my uncle and my dad, and 3 years ago, my grandpa's passed away, but my dad and uncle are just at the age where it was time for them to transition out of the operation. They still help do some things, but bodies are sort of shot, so they have to let me take care of a lot of the day-to-day operation now.
So you were involved with it for a while, but now getting back full-time day-to-day has been changed. You bought back into the farm in 2022?
2022, I bought 28 acres, all the buildings, and then that summer bought all the cattle and equipment.
So environmental stewardship has been something that this farm has been a part of for a long time. Can you tell me what practices you implement here that have helped you guys participate in that?
I think the biggest thing is we have a lot of very small fields, and we rotate crops that are going to do their best to control erosion and keep the land. Obviously, just like everybody else, we've done no-till forever. We've done cover crops now, but that's, I think, the biggest difference we have than other places is, a 4-acre field is a big field for us.
So that's definitely a little bit more unconventional, but helps when you're up here in the bluffs, I'm sure, to make sure you keep the ground here instead of getting down the Mississippi, right?
Correct.
I'd say when ground's in the Mississippi, it's not helping you out anymore at that point.
It doesn't come back if it gets down to the Mississippi.
Right. You did mention earlier, too, that you guys kind of have a unique way of what you do for sand bedding. Can you tell us a little bit about that with your freestyle barn?
Yes, we look at it as sort of a recycling project, but all of the sand that's dredged out of the Mississippi gets put on a big pile out by the beach where the kids play softball and baseball Little League program is, and we use that as in our freestall. So I look at it as we're recycling that out of the water, and it works good for the cows and doesn't have any issue with our ground.
That's awesome. I was gonna say, when you told me that one, it's a nice feature to have instead of, all your land going to the Mississippi, you guys being able to use that to get something out of it for the farm too. What do you hope that others who are considering maybe altering some practices for stewardship, what do you think that they can learn from how you guys have attacked it and how you guys process your own stewardship?
I think the biggest thing is you just have to look at it, especially if you rent ground, that you treat it like it's your own. And, for all of us, it's always been important that we try to keep it at least the same and hopefully can make improvements to the land and the situation for the next generation. Because at some point we all know that we're going to leave this earth, and hopefully, we've left a good legacy for the next generation, whoever that is, to continue to develop it and have a good opportunity.
Then this farm's won Environmental Excellence Award in 2010. You guys were also Leopold Award winners recently. How has your environmental stewardship evolved over the last 15 years?
I think we just continue to work with Extension. Carl Dooley was someone that has passed away, but we worked with him a ton. And anything that comes up, we're always open to look at new ways to do things, or ways that, someone has found that, hey, this is really going to help the ground. This is going to help the woods. This is going to help, nature. And if it's something that we can incorporate and it's going to help, we're definitely going to give it a shot.
That's awesome. Obviously, trying new things is always important, and continuing to evolve the approach isn't huge. So, stewardship has been a tradition on this farm for a long time. Why is it important to carry on that tradition?
Again, what kind of legacy are you going to leave? And, I'm blessed to have 5 children and want them to have my dad and uncle and grandpa were so important in leaving me the opportunity and such a great legacy, and I want to continue that same thing for my children.
And about a year ago, you were diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. How has that shifted maybe your ideas in stewardship or gratitude with your farm and your family?
not only me, but a lot of other friends, unfortunately, I know have had cancer. And like they said, it's very humbling of when you find out how many people are willing to reach out and help you, pray for you, do whatever they can to help. And, then the other thing I think it just does is, I remember when my grandpa had some heart issues, he said, well, I'll never go through a triple bypass again. And I'm like, well, I think it's good that we don't have that choice. And we also don't know when our ending is going to happen, because if we knew that, I think we'd live life sometimes maybe not as good as we should. So I've always been very blessed, but the cancer has definitely, made me appreciate every day. Sunsets and sunrises are a lot more important to me than what they probably used to be. Not that I took them for granted, but, cancer definitely sucks and it's not something fun to deal with, but, it is what it is. And, we're very lucky here in Western Wisconsin to have tons of great doctors and good hospitals. And, I think your attitude toward life makes a big difference with cancer. And I've been very lucky to keep a positive attitude. And a lot of people around me have done the same thing. And I think that, and, when you talk stewardship, you have to stay positive because it's not always easy. There's a lot of challenges with it, and it's not something that evolves quickly. And that's the other thing with, looking at my cancer story so far. There's been lots of ups and downs, and, you don't always know the ending. And with stewardship, I sort of see the same thing. Some things we try work, some things we try don't work. But, again, what's the end goal? And that's to, whenever that happens, that we leave this earth, did we leave it in a better spot? And I think the cancer has put that more on the forefront than it has before for me.
Read about Scott's experience with stewardship as he battles cancer under the headline Sustainable Traditions on dairystar.com. It's always a joy to hear how folks are implementing sustainability practices on their farm. So really looking forward to seeing more of that story and reading it myself. Our final story today has us heading to the ice rink in Pelican Rapids, Minnesota. Have you ever done curling, Dan?
I have not. I got introduced to it when I was in high school. One of my study hall teachers it was during the Winter Olympics. One of my study hall teachers put on, the random daytime, whatever they were showing at that time. And it was curling, and it was getting to watch the Eastern European teams do it and yell and everything they were doing with it made it pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it's the Winter Olympics season, so this is a perfect story for this time of the year. Our Tiffany Klopacki, one of our Minnesota reporters, talked with Adam Johnson about their Tuesday night family tradition, curling.
So when and how did you guys get started with curling?
I started about 10, 11 years ago. Our veterinarian, he grew up in northern Minnesota, and we always talked about it with him when he'd come out to the farm. And then he always curled on Tuesdays, so he came out to the farm on a Tuesday, and we were talking about it, and we decided to go up there and check it out, I guess. And we enjoyed it and have basically not missed a Tuesday night of curling since, for the most part.
And then now two of your girls have gotten involved in curling. What's their story?
They've been curling for, I think, 7, 8 years probably. They're 16 and 13. They both started, I think, around when they were 8, 9 years old. And they just got into it because they'd come along and when I was up there. And I guess when they kind of really started was they'd come up and practice if there was an open sheet of ice when I was playing. And if somebody needed a sub, they would ask them to play. And it just kind of grew to them doing some tournaments, and they got noticed by some people from Fargo that were looking for teammates, and it's kind of grown to where they're curling competitively and going to some national tournaments and stuff like that.
And what do you guys each enjoy about the curling sport?
I like how all the people are really nice, and that I like how the strategy of it and how you have to think about kind of what the other team is thinking. And I like, you can kind of be on a team with anybody, so I like switching teams sometimes and playing with other people and seeing how they are, because everybody is kind of curls a little bit differently, and you kind of got to get used to how other people do it. So it's just kind of like you really got to adjust to like every part of it, every game.
The people are really nice and it's just fun to play.
For me, it's just something I can do with my kids. There's not a lot of sports you can play competitively against other people with your kids, and good excuse to get off the farm and do something. Especially when winters get kind of long and cold, it's kind of a nice thing to break up the week.
Very good. And how do you fit going to the different games and tournaments into your farming schedule?
Most of the time, we play Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then the girls play on Sundays. And most of the time, we can get our chores done and then go to curling. Occasionally, we have to miss chores. I have a housing arrangement for some show cattle for a neighbor, and he helps out if I have to leave early. As far as their tournaments on the weekends, I try to make it to quite a few of them, but it's hard to get away as often as I would need to go to all of them. So I do have to miss out on some of their stuff, but I can watch it usually on YouTube or something. And I guess it mostly works pretty well, but there is some sacrifice.
Okay. And then could you just briefly describe how you play a game of curling?
So there's 4 people on each team, and there is 16 rocks, so each team throws 8 rocks, and then you alternate shots with the other team, and each person throws 2 rocks. So the first person throws a rock, and then the other team, and then the first person throws their second rock, and then it just kind of keeps going like that. And then once all the rocks are on the other side of the sheet, then you figure out points and stuff, and then that's called an end. And then you go back and you keep going back and forth down the sheet until you've played 8 ends.
So every player on the team has to throw, every player on the team has to sweep, and usually the strategy involved is kind of discussed between numerous team members as well. There's some individual aspects of it as well as need to have a lot of teamwork as well.
Very good. And then could you just briefly tell us about your farm? How many cows do you milk?
We usually milk between 35 and 40 registered Holsteins. We have a few registered brown Swiss as well. We crop farm corn, soybeans, occasionally raise some wheat and alfalfa, of course, with the cows. And then I do quite a bit of what you probably call meadow hay. We got some hilly ground that's not suitable for row crops in the area, so got an opportunity to put up quite a bit of hay to sell or feed if I need. And that totals probably in the 400 acre range. I also do a little bit of custom planting and harvesting as well for a couple of neighbors.
Read about the Johnson's family curling adventures under the headline Cows by Day, Curling by Night on dairystar.com. We'd like to thank today's sponsor, DRMS. DRMS is excited to launch the Fresh Count Index, a new metric within the Herd HQ platform. FCI combines 25 cow-level variables from DHI test day data and CDCB genetic evaluations into one score to evaluate transition cow performance.
Learn more at drms.org/herd-HQ/what-is-herd HQ. Herd HQ. See what's happening in your herd. Well, Dan, there are a lot of stories in the latest issue of the Dairy Star, including an Our Side of the Fence in connection to Valentine's Day from this past weekend. We spoke with couples who were operating their farm together and some of the fun and challenging times that can create. I know my parents, they farmed together, and to see what their relationship kind of ebbs and flows as a young kid growing up, always special to see how they made it happen, and just their love just kind of grow from some of those challenges of farming.
Another story focuses on the grassroots effort to keep butter in school in Wisconsin. Dodgeville dairy farmer Krista Dolan testified in front of the Senate committee about Senate Bill 645, also known as the Butter Bill, mandating that butter be served to students in Wisconsin schools.
I do enjoy my butter, and so to see some policy that's happening in the last few months related to dairy, really interesting to continue to watch. One more article sees Marshfield, Wisconsin crown a cheese champion. The Roll Marshfield Public Library brought cheese and patrons together as part of National Cheese Lovers Day on January 20th. The event featured 5 cheeses provided by Nasonville Dairy, taste tested by a dozen people who casted a vote, crowning this year's cheese champion. Read that article under the headline Choosing the Cheese Champ on dairystar.com.
That sounds like a great event to be a part of. Do you got a favorite kind of cheese?
You know, I like a lot of different cheeses. I do like to host like cheese and wine parties, and I try to choose like different kind of cheeses. So favorite is hard, but I do like a good Colby or Munster cheese. What about you, Dan?
Quality. I'd say those are good choices. And say if you can get a good, sharp, good aged cheddar for one of those kind of parties, I really like. But otherwise, Munster is one of my favorites when you go to when you're looking for that kind of melting cheese on a sandwich or something. So
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds good.
each one's got its own role, right? Another story in this upcoming issue sees a farm that was nearly done with dairy before putting in reverse. Scott Peterson and his late wife Kelly were transitioning their herd to beef before their sons Sam and Calvin brought the dairy cows back, but with a twist. Read about their story under the headline, Next Generation Turns to Organic Grass on dairystar.com. Find more stories in next week's Dairy Star newspaper. Then come back to the Dairy Delivery on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts to hear more of those stories. Rate and subscribe, and if you or someone you know is interested in being featured in the Dairy Star or on Dairy Delivery, reach out to us at dairydelivery@dairystar.com so we can continue sharing all dairy all the time.